All right. I'll have to make sure that my mic, you can hear my mic. For Jim, it feels like 2 years of being here at the church. For me, it feels like about 24 years. Because I got to work with Jim all the time. Ouch. So good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
It's great to worship with you guys. I brought my co-pilot with me today, which meant I was slightly behind schedule, but it all worked out well in the end. But Jim said,
word encouragement, right?
yeah, just a word of encouragement. I'm probably going to be bouncing back and up before people. If you don't know who I am, Jim was giving you a little bit of what I do. I'm the steward of a company called Shared XP. Lord led me to start this about 2 years ago. One of my buddies in Colorado Springs said to me at one point, it's time for you to quit your job and start doing this full time. And it's like, okay, well that's funny, because I don't leave a job to go to a job if I don't have one to go to. And it was like, okay, well that's different. But that was 2 years ago, and Columbine Hills was one of the first churches that I got to work with. So I got a little story to tell you on the front end, and you'll see how it all ties together with what I'm talking about. So picture this, it's my very, very first meeting with me and Jim. We planned to meet at the IHOP over in Castle Rock for breakfast. So I get in my car, I drive to Castle Rock, I live in the Springs, I meet him there, and as I get out of my car, I reach into my console to pull my wallet out, and it's not there. So how impressive it is for a vendor who wants to get your business if you can't buy breakfast that morning. So I'm panicking, I don't know what to do, so I get out of my car and I say to Jim, I said, I forgot my wallet, I'm not going to be able to buy breakfast this morning. He said, okay, I got you covered. So we go inside, we sit in a booth, we start talking, and as we're talking, God just kind of knit our hearts together and He saw that where I could come in and help. We get all done and we go up and we ask the waitress for the check. And she says, it's covered. And I said, what? She says, it's covered. Somebody already paid for it. So somebody sitting around us at the restaurant that morning heard us talking about the church and decided to pay for us. And it was like, that's just God's providence. Neither one of us had to buy breakfast that morning. So put that in the back of your mind, because we're going to come back to that in a little bit. As Jim said, I take care of scrutinizing the finances. I'm doing that for some other Nazarene churches, and actually for the Nazarene camp. I'm the interim business administrator for the camp, and I'm looking over their finances. I also help putting the puzzle pieces in place. Sometimes a church is so close to taking the next step, they just need one more puzzle piece. And I can come in and help with that. So that's what I do, is I've got a handful of churches, a couple of little businesses that are asking for my help, and I've been keeping busy doing that, plus doing some teaching at CCU. But I come up here once a month and get to spend time with Jim, and I've gotten to know Jim really, really well, and he's a really good guy. And I don't just say that because he buys breakfast once in a while, or offers to at least. All right. I think, coming into today, we have a lot to fret about. I think coming in today, we have a lot to fret about. There's plenty of things in this world we need to worry about. Our government is not working well. I think we all kind of know that. It's just not working well. I'm not going to jump on the side of either side of the parties. I'm just going to say, overall, I wish it worked better. I'm kind of worried about that. There's threats of war with Iran. I don't want to go into another war. I don't know about all of you, but I'm kind of sick of the war thing. And I'm afraid that we're going to have to send some of our guys over there and somebody might get killed. Healthcare is all messed up. If you've had to go in for any type of surgery, or if you've lost your plan, you try to get another plan, it's all messed up right now, and it's not working well. Ooh, back up. There's a sickness without cures. There's a couple of things going on that's just not right in terms of sicknesses, and we can't just give you a shot or a pill and make it go away anymore. Some of these things are really serious. And they keep making threats on the news. I don't know if you guys hear this, but about the superbug that's coming, that nothing will cure. It's like, okay, that's really scary. And I'm not a big zombie guy, so I don't want you all turning into zombies and chasing me around. But the healthcare thing, and there's healthcare, there's sicknesses that aren't working well. Taxes are taking a bigger share of our salaries every day. Every time I turn around, I'm having to calculate a different number for taxes, and it just keeps adding up. Forest fires, hurricanes, pollutions. Have you seen that big lake of plastic that's floating around in the ocean? It's miles huge, and it's all these plastic bottles, and it's like, that's just gross. And they said that just keeps growing. Someday it'll cover the whole ocean, they said. I don't think so, but at least they say that. This building's first sale fell through. I'm kind of fretting about that, to be honest with you. We got so far down the road with the last guys, and then they bailed on us. And they left us with some money, which is nice because it's helping fund our budget right now. But at the end of the day, it's like, are the next guys going to do the same? You know, and I'm fretting about that. And fretting is different than worrying, and we're going to kind of unpack that in a second. The church finances are behind right now. There's a magic thing called the summer slump. Every church that I serve, every church I know of, deals with the summer slump. Summer slump is half the attendance. A couple of the bigger churches that I work with, half their people didn't show up on a given Sunday, which meant half their normal tithe didn't show up that weekend. And I'm talking to the pastor on the following Monday, and he's saying to me, I don't know what I'm going to do. I've got bills to pay, and I've only got half the money. I'm kind of fretting about that. The Broncos are 2-2 right now. I'm kind of fretting about that. Is that going to be the whole season? I mean, I'm a Chicago Bears fan. I know that's going to make you guys hate me right out of the chute. And I'm the only thing standing between you and kickoff time. I know, Tim, so I'm going to try to get inside of it. But hopefully we'll get home in time for the fourth quarter. How's that?
We're recording it.
You're recording. Do they still do that with like a tape and all that? Crazy. But the Broncos are 0-2 right now, and there's people I know. I sit and listen to sports radio. I drive around in my car between visits, and they're fretting about it. They're not quite sure what's going to happen next. On a more personal level, my youngest daughter just broke up with a long-term boyfriend, and her heart's broken. And, you know, my first inclination as a dad is to squish him. You know, it's kind of like, you hurt my daughter, I squish you. You know, but he's a good guy too, and it didn't work out. My heart's broken for her heart. She's broken. I'm worrying about the next guy she picks. Is he going to be a good Christian guy? Is he going to care for her? Is he going to love her? Is he going to put up with all of her grief that I had to put up with for 18 years? All that, that just worries me. Me and my wife are talking about this all the time. What's our retirement strategy? You know that thing called Social Security and all that other kind of stuff, SSDI. That's not going to be there, right? When I get to be 65, 70 years old in 30 or 40 years, it's not going to be. Oh, now wait a minute, Dale. Well, we're kind of worried about that. Are we be able to pay our house off in time? Well, we celebrated this week, and this is kind of a little milestone for us, but I celebrated paying off my student loan for my doctorate. And we went out and had a little It was a good chunk of money, but we've been ferociously paying that thing down, and now my wife wants to transfer all that money over to the mortgage, and I'm doing the calculation thinking, I don't know if we're going to make it in time for retirement. What's that going to look like? So I'm kind of concerned about that. Here's something that's really, really fresh. I got a call yesterday from my stepdad back in Illinois. And my stepdad wasn't a typical stepdad. He was a little bit older than me, and a little bit, 10 years older than me, but he was my best friend. I was the best man at his wedding. He was the best man at my wedding. He calls me yesterday to tell me that my mom is leaving him. And I'm thinking, today is their 40th anniversary. Today, she's walking out the door. And I was like, you know what? I'm really fretting about this one. Because that's not the way it was supposed to end for those two. They were supposed to sail off into the dark one day and it would be all over for the two of them. Now they're going separate paths after 40 years. Connie and I celebrated 34 years this last May. And it's like, that seems like a long time, 40 years. It's like, that's an investment. You guys, common history between you. I'm fretting about this. I'm kind of worried about it, you can tell. I don't feel good about it. Am I the only one that feels the need to fret? Surely I'm not alone in this, right? Could all you guys raise your hand over something you're fretting about? I think you could, right? Make me feel like I'm not that weird. There's things out there that you guys are fretting about I don't even understand. Connie's in continual update mode with the Instagram. There's a little girl, 8 years old, that fell off a golf cart when she was visiting with some friends, bumped her head, her brain swelled up, and now she doesn't know if she's going to be a vegetable or what. 8 years old. There's a freak accident. She just fell a little bit, but she bumped her head, and the whole thing's gone out to lunch. And when Pastor said, think of somebody that my first thought of this little girl, 8 years old. She could be a vegetable for the next 70 years. And it's like, I'm worried about that. I'm worried about her family. I know the family well. When I was little, I was a bit of a worrywart. My mom called me a worrywart all the time. I'm worried about everything. I'm basically concerned about whether or not we're going to have enough food. And it's like, you're 7 years old. Let it go. There's going to be enough food for you. But I would be worried about all this stuff all the time. And she called me a worrywart. And as time rolled on, I find I'm in high school, and every time I take a test, I'm worried about if I'm going to pass it or not. I take and do sports-related stuff. I'm worried about if I'm going to win. I'm so worried all the time that I actually graduated to fretting. So I want to define fretting for you really quick. To fret is defined as, when you fret, you worry so much about something that it eats away at you. You worry so much about something that it eats away at you. So this is the next step up. I mean, you guys can stay at the 101 level of worrying. I've progressed. I've become a 201 level, 301 level fretter. Because I fret. Things eat away at me. After 36 years of work walking with the Lord, you would say to yourself, okay, John, I expect a little more. John, you shouldn't be fretting after 36 years with the Lord, right? It's like, I have seen Him come through so many times. There was a time we were trying to save money for our first house. We bought a 930 square foot ranch house back in Illinois for $52,000. Like $52,000 won't buy you a shed these days, let alone a house. But this was a small house. It was our first house. And we were worried about making the payment, or making the down payment so we could purchase the place. And at the last minute, it all came together. It's like, okay, time after time, God has been there to catch us when we jumped and fell. He's always been there to catch us. And I've been doing this for 36 years, guys. Some of you are not even 36 years old. I've been doing this for 36 years. You think I'd be better at it. You think I would be a first-class, novice, basic worrier. But I'm an advanced fretter. So I'm kind of embarrassed by that, actually. And I say to the Lord, I'm so sorry, Lord, that I'm not better at this, that I fret so much. God knows this about us, and I actually, when I did a search on this, there's 81 verses about fretting, worry, fretting, in the Bible. So God kind of knows we have a tendency, a propensity to be a fretter, that we're going to go off that and chase after that too often. We're going to give up on things, and we're going to say, I just don't know what to do, I'm going to worry myself into it. Where do you think a lot of alcoholism comes from? A lot of recreational chemicals come from? It's a desire to anesthetize ourselves so we don't feel the pressure and stress of fretting or worrying. When I worked at the rescue mission for 3 years back in Colorado Springs, I interacted with 45 guys a day. They were there all the time, and I would listen to the dramas of their lives. And I would start to figure out that after a while, they had to do something to anesthetize the pain. What we were trying to do is insert Jesus into that equation to take and give them the ultimate fix. But a lot of times, they would drink, they would drug, they would steal, they would do horrible things any way possible to anesthetize the pain they were experiencing of worry and fretting. If I was a level 301 fretter, these guys were level 401 and 501. I mean, they were first-class fretters. So there's about 81 verses in the Bible that talk about fretting. At this point, I'm going to stop and say, you're probably all wondering, wasn't this an update about the finances around here? Now what we're talking about is this worrying and fretting stuff. What is going on? John, you're not coming back next time. I'm sorry I didn't follow the directions, but stick with me a little bit. You'll see where we're going. Plus, keep that initial story in the back of your mind, because it'll all come together. Philippians 4, 6, and 7, one of my favorite verses in the Bible. We memorized it when I first became a Christian. This is the Message version, and I think it has a lot to say about this topic. Don't fret or worry. Instead of worrying, pray. Let petitions and praises shape your worries into prayers. Stop for a second. Shape your worries into prayers. Isn't that interesting? God's saying, take the worry, take the phrases you're using to communicate your worry and fret, and turn it into a prayer instead. Shape it into a prayer. Letting God know your concerns. Does God need to know our concerns? He already knows what we're concerned about, right? Why does He want us to tell Him about our concerns? This is the audience participation time. Why do you think God wants us to articulate to Him our concerns?
That's the first step of turning it over to Him.
Exactly, Tom. First step of turning it over to Him is you got to acknowledge it. Some people go through life not acknowledging that, and they wonder why they feel like they're all alone in this. When we can turn to God and say, I know you know this already, God, but I just have to tell you about this little girl. She's 8 years old. Her brain is all messed up. It's maybe that she's going to be a vegetable. Lord, would you do what only you can do? He wants to know that I'm going to take a second and acknowledge the fact that I can't fix this. He wants us to acknowledge the fact that we are not enough. He wants us to acknowledge the fact that only He can. And the first step in that process, to Tom's point, is to present it, is to explain it, is to summarize it, say to Him, hey Lord, this whole thing with this little girl, I can't fix that. They've got some world-class doctors trying to figure this thing out, and they can't fix it, but there's one person who can. You're the one that made this little girl's brain, her body. Please restore it to full health, and then we can all stand up and say, look what our God did. That's what we need to do, and that's the first step, Tom, is to acknowledge it. Before you know it, a sense of God's wholeness, everything coming together for good, will come in and settle you down. It's wonderful what happens when Christ displaces worry at the center of your life. So I've been doing this for 36 years. I've known this verse probably for 34 of those years. Do I practice this verse? As much as I possibly can. What I want to do is encourage you guys as we go into this, further in this message, and we're talking about the finances of the church. Please do not worry. Please do not fret. God loves this place and loves you more than we could ever put together ourselves. And He is fully in charge, fully capable, fully able to address all these concerns. We can take Him a whole boatload, and I'm going to show you a verse in a second that's really cool. What can we take away from this? Do not fret or worry. It doesn't say at the start of that verse, hey, sometimes go ahead and fret and worry. You know, it's okay, God says it's okay. If you need to go ahead and do it, it's all right. He says, do not. Do not. That's a command. We don't like commands as Americans. Back in the 70s, the government came to us and said, you all have to wear motorcycle helmets when you ride your motorcycles. And what did all the Americans say? No. No, we're not going to do that. We don't like to be commanded. By human nature, I don't like to have my wife tell me what to do. And then I give her grief over that, and it's not appropriate, but I don't want to be commanded. So it says right there, do not fret or worry. Are any of you getting your hackles up, sitting in your chair right now, or sitting in your pew, and I say to you, do not worry, are you saying, I'll worry if I want to? You're not going to tell me not to worry. John, who the heck are you to tell me not to worry? I'm going to worry, I'm going to fret. It's just how I am. God made me this way, so accept it. Does anybody say that when they read that first bullet point? If you are, don't take it up with me or Pastor. Take it up with God. And see what He has to say about it. Replace worry with prayer. Isn't that interesting? People outside of this building right now who are in the homes across the street don't know Jesus. Because they don't know Jesus or don't have a relationship with Him and God, they don't replace worry with prayer. What do they do with worry? They fully experience it. They're totally all in. They jump in both feet. They go right from worry to fret as fast as possible. Those folks across the street don't have Jesus in their lives so that they can replace the worry with prayer. We do. We have a Holy Spirit inside of us with His ear listening to everything we're saying and saying, let's go. I'll fix this for you. Give it to me. Don't try to take it yourself. Let God know your concerns. So I'm trying to get real tactical here. I want to give you some steps to walk as you walk out of here today, that you can do these things starting tomorrow or starting this afternoon. Let God know your concerns. I have been telling God since yesterday, a phone call from my stepdad, that I've got some concerns about this whole thing with my mom. My mom and my stepdad are not Christian people. They're, in some cases, my mom is anti-Christian. She does not want to be told anything. And they're living a life apart from God, and I'm watching the results of that. And I'm sitting here 1,175 miles away, worrying about my parent, or my mom, and my stepdad, because I'm a maximum responsibility kind of guy. I take responsibility for everything. So you look at that and you say, God, I'm just going to have to hand you this one, because if I don't hand it to you, it's going to destroy me. I'm going to be in a puddle, because I just can't deal with this, Lord. It makes me so incredibly sad to know that my best friend, my stepdad, after 40 years, I talked to him, he called me last night, and the sound of sadness in his voice was overwhelming. He was forlorn on the phone. He didn't know what to do next. And that breaks my heart, Lord. And it's like, Lord, I got to give this to you, because if I keep carrying it, it's going to destroy me. God will fill you with peace. That verse talks about peace that passes understanding. You can't understand the level of peace He brings into your heart. Have I gotten that peace? Well, I just started praying yesterday about this. I haven't gotten that peace yet. I'm not fretting about it. I'm more moved back to a worrying kind of stage, but I'm not completely at peace yet. And God's going to give that to me. Because you know why? Walking with Him for 36 years, I've seen Him do it so many times. So if you're struggling with that, me and Connie have this thing we call our portfolio of faith. And what it is a collection of stories that we tell each other about our walks together through this whole time with Jesus. And when we start to feel downward spiraling happening, we'll say to you, hey, you remember the time I came home at 3 o'clock on a Monday? I'd just been fired from my job. My daughters are all dancing around, Daddy's home, Daddy's home. They're all little tiny peanuts. And I come in and I said, it's not a good thing. I just got fired from my job. 2 days later, I got offered another job making $20,000 more. And it was like only God could have put all that together. It was a phone call from a person that knew me years before and said, hey, I need somebody like you to come do this job. Here's $20,000 more than you're making. Will you come do it? And I thought for half a second and said yes immediately. But we tell each other that story. When it starts getting down, when we start to spiral, maybe you all have a portfolio of faith. Maybe you could share your portfolio of faith with somebody that only has a couple of pages in theirs. And you can sit down with them and say, don't worry. This is what God has done for me. He'll do it for you. He promises He'll do it for you. The last one up here is Christ displaces worry at the center of your life. 36 years I've been walking with Him. I'm getting closer and closer to this, where I'm not worrying quite as much, but I'm walking closer with Jesus. I would think that the time that I'm worrying has become shorter and shorter. It used to be all-encompassing all day long, worry about it for several days, worry about it for several months. Now it's shorter than that. And when I start to feel the pangs of worry or fret, tell me if this is happening for you. When I start to feel that kind of stuff, I automatically start thinking about and praying to God, and the time becomes shorter. And I don't worry as much. I don't fret for as long. Does that make sense? Is that happening for you as well? You start to walk with Him that long? Let's practice not fretting together. You ready? This is the finance part. Don't get up and leave. Hang out for just a few minutes. There's two things on our mutual fretting list that we can all take and grab a hold of together as a community. First one is the sale of the property. I'm a business guy. I'm a business guy by experience and by training. I'm a pastor by heart, but I'm a business guy. My first thoughts when it comes to business-related stuff like this is, I got to have 5 ways to fix every problem because I don't know which one it's going to be. At any given moment, one of these things is not going to work, and those guys are going to call us up like the last group did and say, we're out. We've thought about it, we think about it some more, and finally we thought about it long enough to say, we're out. And that's 14 months more. And I'm kind of worried about that, and I want to protect the church, because I'm a maximum responsibility kind of guy. I want to help Pastor Jim as best I possibly can, so I'm fretting, I'm worrying about the sale of this place. How insane would it be to worry about the sale of this place for 14 more months? If fretting is eating me from the inside out, will there be anything left to me in 14 months? I just got to hand it off. So maybe this is something we can all do together. The other thing is the finances. The blue bar you see on the screen right there is the total budget for the entire year. That's all in. Utilities, salaries, the mortgage on this property, all in. Right now, after 4 months, our fiscal year starts May 1. After 4 months of being in the game, we should have brought in $63,780. If you take $191,000 a total year, divide by 12, it says each month we should bring in X number of dollars, which is just over $15,000 a month. At this point in the story, we should be around $63,000. Collected to date is $41,000. There's a difference, right? The difference is the red box on the end. About $21,000. What does that mean? Well, it means we can't always do all the things we want to do for ministry. It means it gets pretty tight. It means that the $45,000 we received from the previous sale, when they backed out, we took that money and kept it. is being chewed away at each month as there's a deficit. We have to make up the difference. Now, I've been around churches for 36 years, a little bit before that, before I was a Christian. Every time the money topic comes up, we all grab our wallets, hunker down, and just wait for it to be over. More than anything else, when Jim said, would you come and give a message about that and explain to everybody an update, I wanted to educate. I wanted to inform. If your finances were at home were messed up, wouldn't you want your spouse to say to you, I just want to put it on your radar screen. I'm not blaming, I'm not yelling, I'm not demanding, I'm not requiring, I'm not trying to guilt you into anything. I just want to inform you that we're traveling at about a $21,000 deficit right now. Total income, 191. Our expenses are tracking at this year, if we project out through the end of the year, $230,000. 230 minus 191, and we end up being $38,000. Isn't it interesting that $38,000 is less than $45,000 that we just received from the previous purchaser? You see, oh, that's just a coincidence. That just happens. That doesn't happen.
No.
That's a holy God watching after his church. And he's saying, don't worry, I will fill the gaps. Don't fret, I'm in control. I have this all figured out. So that means for all you, stop giving. You don't have to give anymore. God will make up for everything. Why are you shaking your head saying no? Why are you shaking your head saying no? If God's going to take care of all this, shouldn't we just stop and let him take care of it all? Or does he take care of it through us? We don't need your money. God doesn't need your money. God wants your heart. When he has your heart, the money just works because it becomes a part of your contribution in the love and caring of your church. If I came here today and said, okay, effective immediately, I'm going to be passing out envelopes, Danny's got them all printed up, and on the bottom it's going to tell you, you have now said that you will pay enough to cover $15,000 a month, sign on the dotted line and we will be holding you accountable, and if you don't do it, we're going to kick you out of the church. Does that sound like something Jesus would have us do? No. I don't think Jesus would have us do that, right? Instead, there's Malachi 3:10. This verse is a very popular verse, very famous verse. When we do a money talk, you always whip out Malachi 3:10 and 11. We're looking at the 10 section right here. And I wanted to bring this up to you because I think it'd be really, really fun if, as a community, we did this. Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house. Look at that next sentence and stop for a second. Nowhere else in the Bible does it say that. Test me in this, says the Lord Almighty, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing that there will not be enough room to store it. What's he saying right there? If you guys give something, I'll give something back. We can all work together. No, he's saying, test me on this. He's saying, have courage, come together as a community, and call him on it. Call God on it. One of the churches that I was a part of, one Sunday what we did was we told everybody, if you will tithe for 30 days, give 1/10 of your income, at the end of 30 days and God hasn't blessed you, we will give you all your money back. Pastor came up with this idea. The business guy said, are you insane? We're not giving anything back. Once we get a hold of it, we got to keep it. And he's saying, oh, ye of little faith. And I said, you're talking to a level 201 fretter here. This is causing my fret meter to go and peg off to the side and actually start spinning. I said, we'll just give the money back if God hasn't blessed you. It's like, wow. I don't think we're in that place yet, are we? Could we be? Does somebody need that? Do you want to come up to me or Pastor Jim afterwards and said, I will try that out if you guarantee you'll give the money back? Pastor Jim would have to convince me that's the right thing to do because he's the pastor and I'm the business guy. But what do you think about that? Test me in this. So God is saying, I don't want you to worry anymore. I don't want you to fret anymore about this. I want you to test me in this. Now, over the years, I've done bond issues, capital campaigns for churches, and I will tell you that in your right pocket is the money you pay your monthly bills with. In your left pocket is all your investments. Roth IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, all these investments are in the left-hand pocket. The left-hand pocket, and at least in these pants, I don't know about yours, but they're not connected. Those are two separate pockets. When it comes down to a question of whether I buy bread or shoes for the kid, or I give 10% to the church, where do most of us fail in that discussion? We don't give the tithe, we give the shoes, we give the food. Because we have to do that. That's a pressing need. God is saying up here in Malachi 3:10, and this is all I'll say about this, test me on it. Wouldn't it be fun as a community if we tested him? We're testing a holy God, the guy who created us. We're going to test him on this. It's really a cool concept. What do we do next? So, let's start where the verse starts, with prayer. So as I close here in a few minutes, we come in for a landing, I want to pray about this. I want us to all pray about this as a community, because it's really important that we live in community. We are not meant to do this by ourselves. Go all the way back to the first book of the Bible in Genesis and read what Jesus, God, and the Holy Spirit were doing at the time. What were they doing? They were meeting together. They come together as a community. You all need to come together as a community. We all need to operate as a community. Any other way, we are horribly exposed to attacks by the evil one. The attacks by the evil one come in the form of a little tiny thing to worry about, turns into a monumental thing to fret about. And he loves to do that. If you're by yourself and you have nobody else to pick you up when you fall, you're really exposed at that point. Plus, wouldn't it be cool to celebrate as a church family when we see God turn these things around? I learned a long time ago from one of my mentors. He said, here's the deal, John. When you're in a really tough pickle like that, stop telling people about it, stop talking about it, start telling people about what God's going to do in 6 months. And say to them, you should see what God is going to do in 6 months. 6 months from now, this is all going to go away. God's going to address the situation. Maybe it's a year. He said, but John, get out of the mode of complaining and worrying about it. Get into the mode of proclaiming what our holy God is going to do. Then do what Scripture says. Bring the whole tithe, not because you are worried or frightened, but because you love your church and want to help care for it. I think some of you guys are already tithing. Matter of fact, I know it. Some of you are already tithing. Some of you are not yet. And there's a host of reasons for that. One of the churches I led, actually, as the interim lead pastor down in downtown Denver, had between 500 and 600 people showing up a weekend. We had about a $3,000 deficit. We weren't collecting enough. And I said to everybody, would you be willing to give up 1 cup of Starbucks a week and put it in the offering plate? In this room, roughly, I think we average right now 64 people a weekend. It goes up, goes down, but 64. 64 times $5, $320. $320 goes into the offering. Everybody gives $5. Rather than tell you how much you should give, why don't we just do it this way? Why don't we try for 100% participation? Whatever that means for you. For the widow, she threw 3 coins into the offering that were not even worth a penny. And Jesus called her out for it. He says, look at the faith of the woman. She gave all that she could give. If all you can give right now is 3 coins, get in the game with all of us as a community. Let's do the 3 coins thing. If you can give a little bit more, if God has blessed you in the last little bit and you're looking at a new bass boat, looking at a new camper, looking at a new ATV, thinking about your big camping trip this coming fall to go and hunt some deer, caribou, elk, whatever it is, turkeys. If you're thinking about that, could I ask you to consider maybe scaling back your trip a little bit and giving a little bit more extra to the church so we can overcome that deficit right there? The only thing that's not happening because of the deficit is that we're not doing as much ministry as we possibly could. And I know that haunts Pastor Jim because we talk about it. How do we help? How do we do more ministry here? We need a kickstart. Then, rest in the peace that God provides those who follow Him in His Word. Water pipe issue. Did you know that last year, just before the sale, the previous purchasers came, that the city of Littleton or the local county came to the church and said, you need to put in some special valves in your water system. They're going to cost $1,900. If we had $1,900, would we be having this chat today? No. They came and said, hey, you got to put this in. And pastor says to them, hey, we're under a contract to sale in a couple months. This whole thing's going to be bulldozed. And then the guy said, oh, okay, no worries. Don't worry about it. Then it fell through. And then we started a new one, and the city came and said, we gave you a pass the last time. This time you'll pass. Either pay the $1,900, fix the water system, or we'll just turn off your water and take it away. It's like, come on, this whole thing's going to be bulldozed one day. Why do we have to put $1,900 into fancy brass things, and then we're going to bulldoze it? I got really fretted about this one. This was kind of worrying me, because I wanted to start writing letters and going and making phone calls and saying, come on, a little common sense here from our government would sure be appreciated. Jim, Pastor Jim, because he's a man of faith, says, we'll just pay it. Just get it done and fix it. No more. We made a couple of phone calls, it didn't work. We don't have $1,900. We do, because we have the money that the previous purchaser gave us. We could give them $1,900 of that, but that would shorten how much we could help ourselves next month when we don't make our full offering. We have $1,900, but we sure don't want to spend it. Then, the new purchaser sent us $25,000. We can spend that $25,000 on capital improvements. Putting in a new pipe and valve and all that kind of stuff is a capital improvement. So what did God say? Don't fret about this. What are you worried about? I got this covered. I'll send you a $25,000 check from Richmond Homes, which is not a Christian company, by the way. But they're supporting the church. They're giving us the $25,000 so we can spend it on this project. We started off our talk today by talking about a breakfast meeting that Pastor Jim and I had. He was going to have to buy breakfast. I felt horrible about the whole thing, but if somebody around us listened to our church about our conversation about the church and decided to pay the bill for us, God paid the bill. God paid the bill. When $1,900 came up and we don't have any other choice but to do it, who paid the bill? God paid the bill. Our finances aren't where we want them to be right now. They could be a little bit better. I bring that to you, not to guilt you into anything, not to pressure you into anything, just to make you aware of our family situation. Lastly, but we can also test God and watch Him bless us in ways and quantities beyond belief or logic. Maybe this is an area of growth for you personally. It's something I'm having to think about. Maybe let's call God out on this one. Let's call Him out. Let's say, God, we're going to trust you. We're going to believe in your promise. We're going to take a step of faith and give you some money I shouldn't give you. I'm going to give the church some money I shouldn't give the church. All logic dictates this is a foolish thing to do, God. But I'm going to call you on your promise. I'm going to do it and see what you do. Wouldn't that be cool? I mean, that's when you're running a foot from the dark gate of hell. I mean, we're contending for the kingdom this side of heaven now. So, that verse starts with Philippians 4, 6, and 7. Do not worry, pray. So what I'm going to do is close this in prayer. And that went pretty quick, Tim. I don't think that went too long. Tim would sit here until 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon if he knew it was the right thing to do. So, getting you out of here on time is not a big deal. Let me close this in prayer. And then you guys as a community figure out what you want to do next. Okay, God, I did what you asked me to do. I am for it. I told people about your ability to be able to solve any problem, to conquer any fear, to help me not be a fretter and a worrier. Lord, as a community, we lift up to you the concerns of this church, and we know that you love it far more than we do because you sacrificed your son for it. And that's no small thing, Lord. That's a big, big thing. So, Lord, help us sacrifice as well. We're needed. Help us trust. And, Lord, show yourself able. Would you please? We ask this in your Son's most powerful name. Amen.